This is Dr. Robert Watkins, orthopedic spine surgeon to professional athletes and creator of the Back Doctor app.
Hi, everybody. I'm Robert Watkins, the fourth, MD, and this is part 3 of my series called Homeless in Mar Vista. Part 3 is The Reckoning. Now it's time for us to make some tough decisions. And these are my conclusions. I've done a lot of research, talked to a lot of people, met a lot of great people. These are my conclusions as to what we need to do. So let me just jump right in. First thing we need to do is make sleeping on the street and living on the street illegal and unacceptable, which means we need to devote a lot of resources, time, energy, and money to make this happen. People who are sleeping on the street right now are a threat to themselves, and they're a threat to everyone else as well. Clearly, the rate of people dying on the street who sleep on the street, chance of dying is significantly higher. The incidence of drug addiction, mental health, the trash, the rats, the crime, the diseases, the drugs, the total breakdown of social order. If you just walk around Los Angeles, you'll see it everywhere. This has to change. It has to change now. For the people sleeping on the street and for us. This has to be unacceptable 100% completely. We need to get everybody off the street. So we need to make it illegal. We also need to provide all the resources and services to make this happen, to make it last, and to make it humane. So there's 2 main things I propose. Number 1 is we need to build massive facilities, 1, 2, or 3, someplace that in an affordable area, either California City, military base, near the LA River, and then industrial area near the train station. I'm not exactly sure, but it's got to be a big area, not right next door to neighborhoods. It's got to be a big facility that provides health care, mental health facilities, drug addiction, job retraining, relocation services, and law enforcement. It's got to be safe, and also this is going to be non-voluntary. Everybody has to go. That right now things are voluntary, they're not working out. Our current situation is a disaster. We need to change this, but we need to make it proper. This can't just be some dump that we build some big project and throw every money. This can't be a jail. This has to provide all the services that are needed to help rehabilitate people with fundamental hardcore problems. It's going to take a lot of money. We need to spend it. We need to invest the time and energy to make that happen. That's number 1, is a major facility that provides everything under one roof, non-voluntary. They got to go. You cannot sleep on the street. Number 2 is we need to reintegrate people back into society. We have to bring them home. If this was my child sleeping on the street, I would force him involuntarily to come back home. This is what we need to do. We need to reintegrate people back into society because they got to have hope. They've got to have potential. You can't just throw them in some facility and forget about them. No. And so the second part of my proposal is build affordable housing with services, drug addiction, mental health in our neighborhoods. Build it right down the street from me. Build it next door to my house if we need to. Because we have to reintegrate people into society. That's the future. We can't just throw one problem, throw them all in a jail or something for a year or 2. That's not going to solve the problem. We have to help reintroduce them to society. It's got to be done in our neighborhoods. We all have to help pay for it, support it with our time and energy, volunteer there, do whatever it takes, help people come back. But I have stipulations. In order to be able to use this facility in my neighborhood, there's got to be some connection to the neighborhood. You have to have been born there. You have to work there. You have to have had a job, a house, something. I can't accept people from all over the country, kids moving out here because they want to live at the beach and do drugs and hang out. I'm not building them a house. I got to draw the line somewhere. So there's got to be some connection to the neighborhood in order for those neighbors to spend the time and the money and to allow that to be built in their neighborhood, which is going to increase the congestion and the traffic, which is already a nightmare in LA. Building more 3 to 4 story apartments in my neighborhood is going to make the traffic worse. It's going to double it already. I'm willing to do that. Most of my neighbors are too, but there's got to be some rules and regulations and protocol. I think there needs to be a connection. You have to have some connection in the neighborhood for 3 to 5 years. We can figure out what that is. That's debatable, but there's got to be some connection. Otherwise, a major facility. So I think a 2-pronged solution. So now let me talk about some of the specifics. The mental health solutions. We need to modify the Lantern Men Petrus Act. And that was written in the 1960s. That's what took basically mental health services and the big mental institutions going from, is there a need, to, are you a direct threat to yourself or to others? Well, there's a huge chasm in the middle. There's a huge wasteland in the middle. We need to modify that. I mean, quite frankly, if you're sleeping on the street every night, you are a threat to yourself and to others. Because of the trash and disease and the rats, and also because the chance of you dying is significantly higher, We've proven that. So right there, if you have any type of mental health issue or drug addiction and you're sleeping on the street, you are a threat. So we need to modify some of these criteria we have. Part of that comes back to the conservatorships, is that, like I said before, if you have dementia and you're walking out in the street, well, we set up a conservatorship where other people can make decisions for you. Well, if you have schizophrenia and you're hallucinating and mumbling to yourself, we should have a conservatorship. I realize once they get treated and get lucid, then they can make better decisions. And then maybe they stop taking their medication. Well, we have to tighten that up a bit. We've got to build the resources and tighten this up. Because right now, I'm starting with the premise that right now what we're doing is totally unacceptable. This city is, in the past 3 to 6 months, has completely nosedived, and we need to change it for them and us, for everybody. This is not working. And basically with the mental health issues, we need to pay the money. So like I said before, maybe Reagan didn't build the outpatient facilities he promised, but we need to do something now. So let's spend the money. Give me the price tag. What do we need to do? What services? Where do they need to be? Let's do that. Let's pay the money and build a service for the mentally ill. Drug treatments. We got to pay for their treatment too. We have to create the facilities and the services. I believe in diversion programs. You commit a crime, a drug crime, you either go to jail or you go to drug rehab. And I've heard that diversion programs don't work, but what we're doing right now is not working. So if we were doing diversion programs 2 to 3 years ago, it's better than what's going on right now. And so I think that's part of the solution. I had a great discussion with Marilyn Brown from Houston. She was I don't know if she's checked in, but she was so gracious. She spent so much time with me this weekend. Marilyn's an amazing woman. She's in Houston. And she was the CEO of the Coalition for Homeless, which is an umbrella organization that she took over maybe 2011. And basically they had 4,000 people sleeping on the streets in Houston. They got it down to 1,000. And she said LA is a monumental problem. There's fundamental things different between Houston and LA. For one thing is LA is such a desirable place to live. Not that Houston isn't, but LA is such a desirable place to live that we have people coming from all over the country to live here. I don't know that Houston directly has that. Number two is we've got a coast. Houston may be able to sprawl a bit and build affordable housing in different neighborhoods. We've got a coast right there. There's nowhere to go. And so there are some fundamental differences, but she gave me some good enlightenment. She told me we have to reintroduce people into society. You can't just cast them aside. That's not a long-term solution. I believe her. It makes sense. But I want some criteria for how that's going to happen in my neighborhood specifically. She also said enablement encourages people to stay on the street. So giving them money on the side of the street or giving them food because you're compassionate and you feel their pain and it breaks your heart, all you're doing is perpetuating their ability to stay on the street and kill themselves. So stop giving money, stop giving food, stop giving stuff to people on the street. Give it to the shelters, give it to the United Way, give it to the Salvation Army, give it to the people. Make the people on the street go to the services and the facilities to get what they need. Because if you give them money on the street, they're going to stay on the street. We have to help them get them off the street. As far as in that line, I'm not in favor of any facilities on the street that encourage people to stay on the street. And that goes for bathrooms, shoot-up galleries I think are crazy. Anything that enables people to stay on the street and shoot up and do drugs and kill themselves and ruin our society, I'm not in favor of. We need to bring it home. We got to pay more money, have some structure, bring them home, build them a house in the neighborhood, send them to the big facility to get the treatments they need. Because what's going on right now is not working. What about crime solutions? Prop 47 we talked about. The limit got raised to $950. Maybe we need to lower it back to $500. Maybe that much made a difference, encouraged people to steal less. We got to combine the value. If you steal 3 or 4 things and they add up to be over the limit, that counts. Right now it doesn't. So you can steal every day below $950 and they don't add up. That's crazy. And then there's also aggregate offenses among conspirators. They work in groups. I've seen the bike gangs whistling to each other and breaking down bikes and bringing it all over. That's a conspiracy. It needs to be charged as such. It's a criminal ring. That's what's going on in my neighborhood 2 blocks down my road right now. We need to stop that. And then again, the diversion programs. What can citizens do? What can we do to help ourselves? Lighting is huge. They put in some lights at our post office. It's made a big difference. They spread out from that area. Put lighting around your house, motion camera sensors. The cameras are obviously great, barriers. And the email groups and the text chains with your neighbors, bond with your neighbors, communicate with each other, make each other aware of what's going on. I still just last night saw somebody walking up our street that I'm sure didn't belong here. And my dogs chased after him. These guard dogs are about 2 feet tall. That all helps. They know people are watching. They know people live here. They know people care. The social media, Facebook. What a great device. Hit play and talk and share information. Share information with each other. Let's come up with a rational, compassionate middle ground that we can help each other. Help them, help us, help everybody. And demand more from our leaders and the police. I'm still a bit mad at our leaders. I met with a couple of people from Mike Bonnen's office, Hannah and Matthew, and they were great. Spent a lot of time with me and told me where they were headed and what they were thinking, which makes sense. But I'm still mad that they do not acknowledge the drugs and the crime. Finally, the LA Times came up with that survey last week that said between 67 and the UCLA, 75% had a mental health or a drug problem. That's what I see in my neighborhood. And all our leaders have still been talking about less than 30% in a housing crisis. That's just irritating. This is a multi-pronged problem. We got to deal with it that way. And the LAPD, we got to expect more from the LAPD. And they need more services. Did you know that NYPD, New York Police Department, has more than twice as many officers as the LAPD for the same surface area? We got to increase that. I want LAPD officers on the foot, walking around the neighborhoods. You can't just drive by in a car. You need to walk around and let people in tents and everything else know there's a presence here. And let me know there's a presence to help us feel more protected. Also, citizens, you got to report the crimes. You see somebody shooting up in public, you see somebody threatening someone else, call 911. If not, call the non-emergency line, wait on 30 minutes, hold, get a report number. But these reports add up. The more reports in a neighborhood, the more services can be allocated to that because there's a problem there. So you got to be the squeaky wheel, and it makes a difference. And I want to give a shout out to Councilman Bonnen and the LAPD in our neighborhood because it has helped. I would say 3 months ago, it was gone crazy, totally exploding. And now it's just kind of simmering and it's contained. And they put in some lights. I've seen more LAPD officers, so we're making some progress. But we're nowhere near what is acceptable. There's still 10 to 15 people every night sleeping down on the corner 2 blocks from my house, right in front of restaurants and everything else. And so we've made some progress, but it's going to take a lot more. It's going to take a societal solution. All right, what about the housing solutions? This is a human disaster. Hurricane just ripped through Los Angeles, 60,000 homeless people every night in LA County. It's a national emergency. We need to build 2 to 3 massive shelter facilities that take people in and provide all the services, healthcare, drug addiction, mental health, job, everything. We got to do that now. How much is it going to cost, this comprehensive care? How much is it going to cost? I'm going to figure $500,000 per person sleeping on the street per year, forever. That's a big number. But you know what? It's expensive to live in LA. Housing, at least $100,000 to $200,000. Mental health, $50,000. Healthcare, $50,000. Soft cost, another $200,000. $500,000, I think, is a realistic estimate per person. That's a huge number. There's 120,000 homeless people in California. There's about 100,000 per night sleeping on the street. So let's take 100,000 people, multiply it by $500,000. That equals $50 billion. That's a big number. Fortunately, there's 40 million residents in California. About 40% don't pay any tax. So that leaves about 25 million taxpayers in California. If you take 50 billion, divide it by 25 million, that equals $2,000. So if every taxpayer pays $2,000, then somebody sleeping on the street gets $500,000 that we can provide services and housing. That's actually doable. $2,000 per taxpayer. I think we can make this work, but we got to have a comprehensive plan to make it happen. And so the other component, besides the major 2 or 3 facilities that provide everything that are not voluntary, have the law enforcement presence, the affordable housing in our neighborhoods, and this is really for elderly people who the neighborhood, the cost in the neighborhood has passed them by, who have retired, disabled people who aren't able to work and the cost of the whole neighborhood has passed them by, people who have lost their job, people even with a drug addiction or been stricken with schizophrenia when they're 25. So We need to provide affordable housing with all the services on site in our neighborhoods, which reintegrates them into society, where they have hope, they have potential, they have the resources, they feel a part of the community. Like I said, these are our children that are on the street. We need to help them, bring them back inside and bring them back into our family. But I have criteria on that. I just can't accept anybody from all over the country coming here because they want to live near the beach. There's got to be some connection to the neighborhood, and that's what we can work out. So my summary, this one's short. My last one went on forever. This one's short. It's pretty straightforward. Sleeping on the street has to be illegal and unacceptable, and we need to provide the resources, the time, and the energy and the love to treat this. Bring them back inside in our neighborhoods and in a major facility that provides everything in it. We got to do both. It's going to cost a lot of money. Anybody who's walking around LA knows that currently this is unacceptable. We're all going to need to step up and find a middle ground to make it happen. So I hope that's been helpful. If you guys have any suggestions, please add them in the comments section, and I hope to keep this dialogue going. Thank you so much. Bye.